Steam is once again going completely insane with discounts. We're talking huge AAA games, zombie classics, atmospheric story-driven adventures, brutal co-op action, and even a couple of games you can grab or try right now without spending much at all. And these aren't random cheap titles nobody cares about. These are games that are genuinely worth your time, especially at discounts as big as 90% and even 95%. So today I'm breaking down another fresh list of the best Steam deals you really don't want to miss. Right at the start, Remember Me is sitting at 90% off, and this is one of those underrated games that somehow flew under the radar for a lot of people. It's a story-driven action game set in a futuristic version of Paris, where memories can literally be manipulated and changed. That idea alone already makes the world feel really interesting, but what helps the game stand out is how much personality it has. The environments look great, the soundtrack is surprisingly memorable, and the story slowly pulls you into this world of technology, corporations, and identity. Combat also has a fun twist where you can customize your combo system to fit your own playstyle, which keeps fights from feeling repetitive. It's definitely one of those games that deserved way more attention than it got, and at 90% off, this is an easy recommendation. And next, Frostpunk at 90% off, and this is still one of the best survival strategy games ever made. But this isn't the kind of survival game where you're just collecting resources and building houses. Here, every decision feels heavy because you're trying to keep an entire city alive in a frozen apocalypse where one bad call can completely ruin everything. You're constantly balancing heat, food, laws, worker happiness, and impossible moral choices. Do you make children work to help survival, or do you protect them and risk losing resources? Do you become more authoritarian to keep order, or try to stay humane even if it costs you? It's stressful in the best way possible, and one of those games where hours disappear without you noticing. Up next, Middle-earth, the Shadow Bundle at 90% off, and this is honestly one of the strongest deals in the entire video if you enjoy action games. You're getting Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, both of which are packed with content and still hold up incredibly well today. The combat feels similar to the Batman Arkham games, fast, smooth, and satisfying, but what really makes these games special is the Nemesis system. Enemies remember encounters with you, react differently over time, and can even come back stronger after surviving fights. That mechanic alone makes every playthrough feel more personal and unpredictable. And if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings universe, this bundle becomes an even easier recommendation. And next, Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, both at 90% off, and these are perfect if you're looking for some fun zombie chaos. Instead of pure horror, the games lean more into satisfying combat and co-op fun, especially when you're playing with friends. There's something really enjoyable about crafting ridiculous weapons, exploring tropical locations, and smashing through groups of zombies in increasingly ridiculous ways. The combat feels heavy, enemies react to hits in satisfying ways, and while the story isn't the main attraction here, the overall gameplay loop is still surprisingly addictive. Up next, Primal Carnage Extinction at 90% off, and honestly, this game is just ridiculous in the best possible way. It's basically humans versus dinosaurs in multiplayer matches, and yes, it's exactly as chaotic as it sounds. You can either play as heavily armed soldiers trying to survive, or become the dinosaurs themselves and hunt players down. Matches become complete chaos very quickly, especially once giant creatures start rushing entire groups. It's definitely more of a fun, goofy multiplayer experience than something competitive or serious, but at this price, it's hard not to recommend at least trying it. And next, Warhammer Vermintide 2 at a massive 95% off, and this is easily one of the best co-op games you can grab for almost nothing. If you've ever played Left 4 Dead, imagine that same kind of teamwork-focused gameplay, but set in a dark fantasy world with swords, magic, giant hordes of enemies, and incredibly satisfying melee combat. Every character class feels different, the progression system gives you plenty to unlock, and the combat just feels amazing once everything clicks. It's one of those games that becomes way better with friends, but honestly, it's still a great experience even solo. At 95% off, this feels almost impossible to ignore. Up next, TT Isle of Man, right on the edge, 2 at 90% off, and if you enjoy racing games, especially motorcycle simulators, this one is definitely worth a look. What makes it stand out is how focused it is on realism and speed. The game is based on the real Isle of Man TT race, which is known for being one of the most dangerous motorcycle races in the world, and honestly, you can feel that intensity while playing. The tracks are long, narrow, and require real focus, because one mistake at high speed can completely ruin your run. It's definitely more demanding than arcade racers, but if you enjoy mastering difficult driving mechanics, this can be incredibly rewarding. And next, Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, both both at 90% off, and this is honestly one of the strongest story-driven deals here. These games are still some of the best atmospheric shooters ever made, and even years later they hold up incredibly well. You're surviving in a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has been forced underground into the Moscow metro system, and everything about the setting feels immersive. Resources are limited, ammunition matters, and there's this constant tension where you never fully feel safe. The story, world building, and atmosphere are easily the biggest highlights here, and if you somehow skipped these games before, this is absolutely the time to fix that. Up next, Life is Strange Complete Season, episodes 1 through 5 at 85% off, and right now it's sitting at only around $3, which honestly feels kind of ridiculous for what you're getting. This is one of those story-driven games that really sticks with people because of its characters and emotional moments. You play as Max, a student who suddenly discovers she can rewind time, which creates some really interesting choices and consequences throughout the story. The dialogue feels natural, the soundtrack is fantastic, and the game does a great job making you care about the people around you. Even if you normally don't play narrative-heavy games, this one is very easy to recommend. And next, Hogwarts Legacy at 85% off, and this is honestly one of the biggest AAA deals in the whole video. If you're a Harry Potter fan, this game is pretty much the fantasy people wanted for years. Getting to fully explore Hogwarts, attend classes, learn spells, and just exist in that world. But even if you're not deeply into Harry Potter, there's still a really solid open world RPG here with fun combat, exploration, side quests, and plenty of secrets to discover. The castle itself is incredibly detailed, and just walking around Hogwarts feels genuinely impressive. At 85% off, this is one of those deals that's really hard to ignore. Up next, Sherlock Holmes Essential Bundle at 84% off, and if you enjoy detective games, this is honestly a lot of content for the price. The bundle includes multiple Sherlock Holmes games where you're solving mysteries, investigating crime scenes, questioning suspects, and putting clues together yourself. What makes these games fun is that they actually trust you to think instead of holding your hand the entire time. And if you don't want the full bundle, most of the individual games without DLC are also sitting at around 90% off separately, which still makes them very easy to recommend. Up next, The Quarry at 85% off, and if you enjoy cinematic horror games where your choices actually matter, this is a really solid pickup. The whole setup feels like one of those classic horror movies where a group of teenagers get trapped somewhere they absolutely should not be, and of course everything starts going horribly wrong. What makes the game fun is that every decision can completely change who survives, who dies, and how the story plays out. You're constantly making choices under pressure, sometimes with only a few seconds to react, which keeps the tension high the whole way through. It's also one of those games that's really fun to replay because there are so many different outcomes to discover. And next, Drift 86 at 100% off, and this is one of those deals that honestly costs nothing to try because you can grab it and keep it permanently in your library. If you enjoy drifting games or just messing around with cars, this one is surprisingly fun for what it is. The focus here is mostly on customization, tuning, and improving your drifting skills while experimenting with different setups. It's not trying to be some massive AAA racing simulator, but if you enjoy that satisfying feeling of finally landing smooth drifts, this is definitely worth adding to your collection while it's available. And finally, Path of Exile 2 can be played for a limited time until June 1st, and if you're into action RPGs, this is honestly one of the biggest things you can try right now. If you've ever played Diablo or games like that, you'll immediately understand the appeal here. Massive skill trees, tons of loot, different character builds, and combat that constantly throws huge groups of enemies at you. What makes Path of Exile stand out is just how much depth it offers. You can spend hours experimenting with builds, abilities, and gear combinations, and if you've been curious about it but weren't sure if it's your kind of game, this is honestly the perfect chance to jump in and see if it clicks before June 1st. And that's gonna be it for today's Steam deals. First of all, thank you all so much for the support lately, and a huge thank you to everyone who subscribed. It honestly means a lot and really helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video or found something worth picking up, the best way to support the channel is by leaving a like on this video. I'd really appreciate it, and of course thank you for watching all the way to the end.